Hi, and welcome back to Origin of Concepts. Today, we're gonna look at this woman up here, and it's Nut from ancient Egypt. Nut is one of the most prominent and ancient deities in the Egyptian pantheon, serving as the goddess of the sky, stars, cosmos, and the protector of the dead. Her bent posture represents the celestial vault that arches over the earth. So, what is in the mainstream thinking of her is that the earth is below her and the heaven is above, and what we see is the night sky. And that's not the case. It's not that literal because she's not the celestial sky we are looking at every night or our physical earth. She is protecting the divine world and sky in the center of the Milky Way. So let's take a look at it. By the way, many people have speculated that she actually was the Milky Way, expanding over the earth in the great arch, but she isn't. And you will find out in just a little second here. Because Nut represents the dark shadow arching across the disk in the center of the Milky Way. And let me draw her. Maybe I should try a red color here. She is basically this shadow here. This is Nut. We could also say it was this shadow here, because that's the area she is bending over. But there's some detail I'll go through later to see that, like her bended foot here and something like that. But let's start, just mark up the boat shadow here, because that's Nut. And let's follow that claim up by some key features from the ancient Egypt texts. So let's start. Nut is Nut means sky heaven. That's what her name means, and she is related to the jar symbol. The jar, okay, because the jar is here in the Milky Way center. The jar with the nice yellow stuff inside, also known as the disk in the Milky Way center with the creation spirit. So that's the jar, always related with her. And by the way, most of all jars in every single myth around the world. Okay, I'll pack the jar away. And then the text also say, Nut is swallowing the golden disc. Ra. Basically, the story is that, or the interpretation is that she's swallowing the sun every day. But she doesn't swallow the sun. She's swallowing the golden sun, the disk in the Milky Way center. And that's also Ra, the radiation of the golden light from the spirit from the Milky Way disk is radiated down through the striped shadow here and into our minds, so to speak. Okay. And then it also writes, Nut is she who bore the gods. Yes, of course. because the gods is represented by the striped shadow here. It's all the gods within her, or in her position, or in her realm, so to speak. And then Nod is related to the sycamore fig tree. Yeah, and I guess why. Because do you know how this sycamore tree looks like? Okay, let me show you. This is the trunk here from the sycamore tree, and the sycamore tree looks like this. This is the trunk, the striped shadow here. So here you got your sycamore tree in the sky. And by the way, this is also a lot of other trees used in other myths around the world. It's always the tree. This is the tree. And the crown. Okay. And then here, this is very funny. Oh my God, I was like, it took me years to figure this out because it's so obvious, But, sometimes when you are investigating something, you make things very complicated, and then it's just right in the front of your eyes. But you'll find out in a moment here, because Nut is related to a giant pig nursing its piglets. And if I tell you that this is all the piglets nursing on the big giant pig, then I think you know what I mean. Let me try to mute it here. Do you see the? I'll draw it for you, because the pig is lying here. You can almost see the face down here in the silvery shadow. And the eye here, and this is the nose. And here is all her small piglets suckling on her. So here you got the the giant pig. I couldn't understand, why do you suddenly put a pig into the Egypt mythology? There's no pigs except from this one, of course. And it's not the only nursing animal in the world myth. There's a lot of them. Okay, let's move on here. I'll just make Nut again here. Nut's task were to envelope and protect Ra. Of course it is, because she has enveloped Ra here inside her belly, or inside her realm she creating by bending over him. And Nut was often painted on the inner lid, on the sarcophagus. Sarcophagus, yeah. And no shit, Sherlock, because Nut is the lid of the sarcophagus, the chest for the mummies. She is the lid. And if you have seen some of my other videos, you will notice that the disc here with the striped shadow is actually the mummy with the bandages. So, of course, she is the lid. And then the sun and the moon make their way through her belly. And now we have to talk about it again, because the sun and moon are literal misinterpretations of the golden disc and the silver crescent, which is the disc here. And let me take the silver color here. And the silver crescent is the striped shadow, if you outline it. The silvery crescent. And it's always it's not the sun and the moon, around we see every day. It it means something a complete difference. But I'll go back to that in another video. However, the path of the sun and the moon and the planets are passing directly through her belly. But it's not what the text refers to. Let me draw the path of all the suns and planets. They do like this straight through the disk. This is the path of the planets and the sun and the moon. The literal sun and the moon. But that's not what they wrote on their text for the deaths. They don't care about the sun and the moon. It's another sun and the moon. The divine sun and moon, so to speak. Okay. What else do we got here? Nut rises in the sky on her back and takes the form of a cow. Of course you do. But you don't know why yet. Let me explain here. I clean the board. Not, let me read it because it's, the devil is between the lines. Not rises in the sky on her back and takes the form of a cow. It's because the back of Nut is the cow. And let me draw the cow for you. The bull of heaven, so to speak. We got the two horns up here. The shadow is not very visible, but if you go out there, you will see it. And then we got something like that. And then we got here. It can be like a flying cow or a laying cow. I make it lie down here, because here we got the cow. So here it is. And just to make it precisely, this is the tail. It's the stripe shadow here. This is the tail. So, and it got some eyes up here. It's a star, which looks like their eye in the sky. So here you got the cow. And if I can paint her back, it goes like this. So here you got the nut and the cow. It's actually a nice pink cow, huh? Okay. Next. Nut lies on top of Geb, the earth, and has constantly had intercourse. They are hanky-panky all the time until they are separated by Shu, the father, I think. But let me show you how it works. Because here we got this shadow here is Nut. But if you go under the disk here, I'll make it another color. You have a posture like this. You're following a shadow. It's like this. And look down here in the corner. Look at this person down here. That's the earth guy. That's Geb here. He's lying there. And that's his posture is the outlining of the dark shadows below the disk, and she's the upper part. So now we just need to know, who separate them, because in the mind of the Egyptians they were clashing, close to each other, and then they were separated, and then the heavens and the earth came to existence. And let me draw the heaven and the earth, because the heaven is here. And the earth is basically the striped shadow here, and sometimes the disc in the center is also used as the earth or island or the beach or this of the shore. But here you got it. And let me see, because there's more interesting here. Because we got Geb, the earth, lying down there. And what I'm looking for in my notes is if we also have Shu. Because otherwise I'll draw. I don't have it, but let's draw Shu. Shu is the guy standing on earth and holding up the knot and separates the sky from the earth. Let me draw him here. Because this little guy is the central shadow here, inside the disk. And he is also Atlas in Greek mythology. And you can see now how he separates earth and the heavens. It's obvious. And that's exactly what the ancient Egyptians saw up there in the Milky Way center. And got all those fantastic ideas. So let's move on here. And knot was the ladder, or Maki, in the translation of the Egyptian text, which Osiris used to enter her celestial heaven. Okay, so she was the ladder. Of course she was the ladder, because you see the striped shadow here? It's the ladder. And Osiris is also a figure based on the entire Milky Way center. So, yeah. And there's only one way up there. Use the stairways to heaven, of course, to use a biblical metaphor. Or Jacob's ladder, maybe. Okay. And then I got one last here from the official texts. Not is often referred to as she who holds 1,000 souls because of her nurturing and protective role in the afterlife. And let me draw that. Here we got not again. And the 1,000 souls is the 1,000 dark stripes in the striped shadow. And souls is like physical manifestation of spirit, which runs down through the striped shadow here, so to speak. You know, the word soul is it's really not existing. It's also a misinterpretation of something else. But everybody knows what we mean when we talk about the soul. So soul is just the spirit from heaven manifested into man on earth, you know. And that's that. Okay, and then I got some other comments down here, because the realm of the dead, Duat is the name, lies in Nut's belly. And it's because Duat, the underworld in the Egypt mythology, is of course the Milky Way center. This is Duat. The entire story of Duat is within these lines. This is the temple of Osiris and everything you need to know in here. The scale, weighing the heart and feather and everything. And then, yeah, that's there. From the beginning I was talking about the feet. If you see down here in the corner picture, she has raised her feet. And, you know, the Egyptians don't make things without a purpose, because they were very, very smart. Or just very, very observative. What's the name? observative and get all the details. If you see here, the shadows here is the lifted foot, so to speak. You know, the Milky Way is not always straight. You know, it falls and raises, and it's also bent a little bit. This image I made here is pretty straight, but it's actually bending a little bit. But I don't have the wide screen to fit the entire perspective of the horizon, so that's why. So in real world, it's bending. Maybe I can show that in another video, or just go out there and look up. So that's her bended foot there. And then if you go deeper into some of the myth about the other Egyptian goddesses, I hate to use the word goddess and gods, because the Egyptians doesn't see them as gods and goddesses. But you see, she got the naked breast here. And the Milky Way center is, of course, the naked breast here. So go suck some milk, bastards. Okay, I think that's all. Now you know where to find Nut. And I think this has been there has been so many, ideas. What is she and how and why? But now you know, and this is the source in the Milky Way center. Okay, that's all for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Until then, take care. Bye.